a screensaver on a teenage boy's laptop.
Double pump?
It squirts the fuel in so you can go faster.
Oh. I like to go faster.
A middle-aged lawyer's shower fantasy.
This is our house. Just for you and me. You can play mommy and daddy.
And a sexual prop used to sell
movies. I have no choices in anything. I do what Michael Bay tells me to do. That's that.
The objectification of you, Megan Fox, is so much larger than you.
I was ahead of the Me Too movement by almost a decade. I was sort of speaking out against some of the abusive, misogynistic, patriarchal things that were going on in Hollywood back in 2008 and 2009, way before people were ready to embrace that or tolerate it. And I actually got ridiculed for doing it. I didn't feel like I was accepted by much of the feminist community. Me being a mirror for those particular people, whatever I provoked, I just didn't think that I was a very sympathetic victim, and so I didn't want to speak out because I didn't feel like it would be received. Those are all real life experiences that I had, speaking about my career in Hollywood and about how I've had to go up against some of the most powerful men in the world. I would say at different periods throughout my life, I was dealing with some really heavy experiences with different people.
That involved physical, emotional, and mental violence, essentially.
Yes.
There is one poem, and the entire poem is I hate men 7 times. It seemed so dark and so real when you talk about someone spitting on your face, smudging it and holding you down and hitting you and then falling asleep on top of you so that you couldn't call police.
Intentionally, that's all real. Throughout my life, I have been in at least one physically abusive relationship and several psychologically very abusive relationships.
I've learned to look at the floor when men speak to me. I've stopped trying to share charming anecdotes over dinner because you always finish them for me. And I certainly don't dare laugh at anyone else's jokes, not even your closest friends, because we've all seen what happens when a smile creeps across my lips that you didn't put there. I put on my shortest dress and my highest heels so that you can show me off while simultaneously keeping a possessive hand around the back of my neck. My will has atrophied in my chest. My feelings stick in my throat, never forming words. I forgot that I had a voice long before you decided to become my ventriloquist. And somehow, in spite of your genuine longing to be loved, you prefer it this way. The poem is called The Art of Becoming an Accessory.
Megan Fox was born on May 16, 1986, in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, to parents Gloria Darlene and Franklin Thomas Fox. The second daughter of a parole officer and a mother who worked a variety of jobs to make ends meet, was a relatively happy child. Despite the family having very little money, Megan remembers the joy of watching her father hunt ducks and her mother later cooking them. Though they lived a modest life, it brought Megan much joy. But in 1989, at the tender age of 3, Megan's parents would separate following a very tumultuous marriage. According to Megan, though the split wouldn't necessarily traumatize her, her father's absence upon the divorce would be the first heartbreak of her life. Megan recalls, I remember my mother's depression really, really affected me very deeply, and it was very visceral to me. I was so connected to her sadness, her feelings of being unfulfilled, and also her resentment towards relationships. My dad is really outgoing and funny and charming and really unique and sparkly, and she was not fulfilled in that relationship for whatever reason. He always was a light, and he still is a light, but he was separated from me in a way where I couldn't get to the light.
My parents got divorced when I was 3, and prior to that, I just remember both my parents are still alive, and so I want to be careful not to drag them, but while also being honest. I remember my mother's depression was really affected me very deeply, and it was very visceral for me. And like if I were to draw an image of my mother from my childhood, it would be her, like, this is not a literal image, but she just always seemed like a soaking wet blanket, or like draped over a couch, like weeping. That would be like my image of mother, because I was so connected to her sadness or her feelings of being unfulfilled, and also her resentment towards relationships.
Upon her parents' divorce, Megan and her older sister Christy were primarily raised by their mother, who struggled to pay the bills. As a single mom of 2, Gloria Darlene would find comfort in their local Pentecostal church. As Megan recalls, the church provided community and support for the family of 3, but most importantly for Megan, it provided acceptance as she struggled with the absence of her father. According to the actress, by the age of 8, she was so connected spiritually that she could speak in tongues. She explains, "You have to understand. There, I felt safe. I was raised to believe that you're safe in God's hands, but I don't feel safe with myself. I have seen magical, crazy things happen. I've seen people be healed. Even now, in the church I go to, during praise and worship, I could feel that I was maybe getting ready to speak in tongues, and I'd have to shut it off because I don't know what that church would do if I started screaming out in tongues in the back. It feels like a lot of energy coming through the top of your head, and then your whole body is filled with electric current, and you just start speaking, but you're not thinking because you have no idea what you're saying. Words are coming out of your mouth, and you can't control it. The idea is that it's a language that only God understands. It's the language that's spoken in heaven. It's called getting the Holy Ghost." In 1996, when Megan was 10 years old, the family would relocate to Florida following her mother's nuptials to a much older man named Tony. For Megan, the move to Florida had its perks, as she loved the beach and hot weather. But according to Megan, despite its positive aspects, life with her stepfather was far from pleasant. Described as a very strict and religious man, Tony was allegedly verbally, mentally, and emotionally abusive towards Megan, as he isolated her from her mother. She remembers, "After my parents divorced, it felt like my dad kind of disappeared for a while. My stepfather was a very impulsive and aggressive man. And my mother, I don't want to drag my mother, but my mother, I perceived her to be more passive and wasn't as protective of me as she should be."
My stepdad, who has passed, was probably had borderline personality, but back then he was diagnosed, I think, bipolar. And so he was emotionally and mentally and verbally very abusive to me, not to her. And he isolated me from her, and just in general, like I wasn't allowed to have friends over or like go to anyone's house. So I spent a lot of time isolated in my room, and wasn't able to really even spend much. He wanted her. I guess he isolated her is really what was happening. But it seemed as though I was the one being isolated.
Yeah.
Then I watched her depression through that relationship as well. And so the messaging that I received is that men and marriage in particular drain you of your life force and keep you from being able to express your creativity or express your unique desires. And it's an oppressive experience to be in a relationship or to be in love or to be married. In particular, being married. Like when I say the word being married, I feel my chakras tighten up. I feel my
Really?
back get tight, even though I was married for a long time. So I was alone a lot and trying to make sense of my mom's depression and the disconnect, and then the emotional violence coming from my stepfather, and also wanting to be with my dad more and not being able to be around him because he always was a light and he still is a light, but he was separated from me in a way where I couldn't get to the light. It's kind of like you can't get to God.
Yep.
That constant like wanting to connect with the father figure, like either spiritually or literally.
Yeah.
In addition to dealing with a hostile and toxic home environment, Megan was also the victim of relentless bullying at school. According to the actress, she was often picked on to the point that she ate lunch in the bathroom to avoid being pelted with ketchup packets in the cafeteria. The problem, Megan says, wasn't her looks, but the fact that she got along better with boys. The bullying would cause Megan to spiral into severe depression, where she developed distorted eating habits and body dysmorphia. She says, I came into the world really bright and sunny and happy. However, at a certain point, I went through some trauma in my childhood, and I developed a pretty severe eating disorder and manic depression, which runs in my family. I think, for me, what was intimidating was that I've always gotten along better with boys. That rubbed some people the wrong way. I developed body dysmorphia. I don't ever see myself the way other people see me. There's never been a point in my life where I loved my body. When I was little, that was an obsession I had, that I should look a certain way. And why I had an awareness of my body that young, I'm not sure. And it definitely wasn't environmental, because I grew up in a very religious environment where bodies weren't even acknowledged. I think the journey of loving myself is going to be never ending.
In middle school, I was always a loner, I guess, and not necessarily by choice, but that actually stems from a family environment where I didn't feel that I belonged and never felt a part of anything. And then as I went out into the world in school, that was also reflected back to me, where I didn't fit into a friend group and I wasn't received well by kids. And then as I left school and went out into the world as a famous person, the world received me that way as well, with a lot of contention and a lot of negativity and a lot of projection. And so I wasn't cool. I had an eating disorder in middle school, a really bad one. I had to be hospitalized twice. And I was left in there like, my mom will say she took me out for Christmas. I don't think that's accurate. I think I was in there for Christmas, but I was in there for a few months at a time. Every time they would put me in, essentially I was 5150'd because my eating disorder was so bad. I had braces. I had plucked out all of my eyebrows. And when you do that, when you pluck your eyebrows, by the way, for anyone that's ever going to do this, if you do that when you're sick or your immune system is down, those hairs don't grow back. So plucked my eyebrows out. Most of them never grew back.
Why did you pluck them out?
It was like cutting or like any kind of I was just doing things to myself to like not disfigure myself, but it was a compulsive action that I didn't understand at the time. Whenever I would look in the mirror as a child, I was like, that's not me. That never felt like me. I nothing about that face, the hair, the skin color, the body, that wasn't me. I never associated that with me. And so I think that's because I have a strong tie to some of my other lifetimes. And it was always hard for me to accept that this is who I am in this lifetime. I think ultimately at the time that I was going through it, it was loss of control because of the dynamic between myself and my stepfather, and having no autonomy whatsoever, and like not being able to have friends or to leave the house or to even like do things freely inside the house. But prior to that, it was just a feeling of being defective or being unwanted. And for whatever reason, I'm not sure why it manifested specifically as that and not as like addiction issues, which I've never had. But it manifested as body dysmorphia and self-esteem instead.
Megan's adolescence would be a trying time in her life, from her volatile home environment to being a victim of school bullying. The teen had a lot on her plate. But despite the hardships, Megan knew that she wanted to pursue a career in show business and focused on that instead. At the age of 14, Megan briefly began modeling in catalogs before she was sent to an audition by her agent to be an extra in Bad Boys 2, a movie directed by Michael Bay. The film, which was shot in Florida, would be an interesting experience for the then 15-year-old. In an interview, Megan recalls, "They put me in 6-inch heels, and a Stars and Stripes bikini, sent me to Michael. He approved me. Then they put me in the scene under a waterfall. You get $500 extra if you were willing to get wet, and I was thrilled to get wet. I was still a child, but for those 2 days, I was being treated like a grown woman. I felt like I should be in a bikini dancing under a waterfall. That is where I thought I belonged. As a kid, I was very rebellious. I was always trying to get away. I hated authority figures telling me what to do. They wanted me to be conservative, but I was obsessed with looking like Barbie. I was wearing the smallest clothes I could find. My mom wouldn't let me dye my hair blonde. But my mom was right. Being brunette was the one thing that made me memorable. I didn't look like anybody else, so I clung to that.
Megan, what is it like working with the director Michael Bay, who, from all accounts, appears to be insane?
Yeah, well, he's infamous for being a sort of tyrant, I guess, on set. But the first time I ever worked with him, actually, I had just turned 15, and I was an extra in Bad Boys 2.
Really?
And yeah, they were shooting this club scene, and they brought me in, and I was wearing a Stars and Stripes bikini and a red cowboy hat and like 6-inch heels. And they took me to Mike, and he approved it. And they said, Michael, she's 15, so you can't sit her at the bar, and she can't have a drink in her hand. So his solution to that problem was to then have me dancing underneath a waterfall getting soaking wet. And that's
Perfectly wholesome.
At 15, I was in 10th grade. So
Wow.
that's sort of a microcosm of how Bay's mind works.
Well, that's really a microcosm of how all our minds works, but some of us have the decency to repress those thoughts.
Right.
Following her experience as an extra in Bad Boys 2, Megan convinced her mother to take her to Los Angeles so that she could start auditioning for pilot season. The 15-year-old would land a role in the Olsen twins' movie, Holiday in the Sun. Upon her appearance in the straight-to-DVD film, Megan tested out of high school and moved to LA to further her career. While there, she booked a supporting role in a Lindsay Lohan film, Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen. Though it wasn't the role of her dreams, it was a step up from dancing in a bikini under a waterfall. According to Megan, ever since she was a little girl, she had dreams of becoming an actress. As a result of her father's absence, Megan craved attention and wanted to be in the spotlight. As she recalls, his absence left a huge hole in her heart, and she wanted to fill it by becoming a star. She recalls, "Growing up, I was always alone and withdrawn, but I wanted to be an actress from the time I was 2. My mom said it was the only thing I ever said I wanted to do. When I was 4 or 5, I watched The Wizard of Oz, and for a year I asked her to call me Dorothy. When my mom explained to me that Dorothy was not real, that an actress plays her, I decided I wanted to be an actress. I would put on shows in our living room. It wasn't even a need to perform. I just always wanted everyone's attention to be focused on me. I grew up craving the spotlight, and once it happened, I immediately recoiled. Up until the very moment it happened, I was really outgoing. Now, I'm extremely introverted. I thought that I would love it, that this was the kind of life I wanted, that everyone wanted. I don't know what I expected. It just always seemed so glamorous. I felt like once I achieved that success, then all of my internal issues would be solved, and I would be this really confident person. And I'm not. It's not just physical insecurity. It's also a feeling of not being acceptable and wanting to be. Of course, I think that this has something to do with my parents' divorce and not seeing my dad and always feeling rejected. You don't ever really get past that. Following Megan's part in the Lindsay Lohan film, she would land a role in the sitcom Hope and Faith, starring actress Kelly Ripa. Again, it wasn't the role of her dreams, but it would put food on the table and provide Megan with a steady paycheck. Set to film in Queens, New York, Megan relocated from LA and moved into a tiny apartment in Manhattan's Lower East Side. According to Megan, the move was difficult as it left the 18-year-old isolated with no family or friends. She says, "I was really isolated. I never went out. I had no friends. I was just on my own in the apartment the whole time. I ran out of food. I ran out of water. I ran out of everything. I laugh about it now, but back then, I was really quite unhappy." Megan's depression would take a toll on her, causing the actress to spiral further into a dark hole. But one day, while on set for Hope and Faith, the 18-year-old would meet the man who would brighten up her life. His name was Brian Austin Green, an actor best known for his role as David Silver in the TV show Beverly Hills 90210. According to Megan, when she first laid eyes on Brian, it was love at first sight. Despite him being 13 years her senior, when Megan looked into his eyes, she saw her future. Megan recalls, one week, Brian Austin Green, who was part of the original cast of Beverly Hills 90210, was scheduled to appear as a guest star. He played himself. I didn't know who he was, but I liked him right away. Everyone was gathered around the monitors watching playback from his scene, and he accidentally grazed my leg with his hand. I remember literal electricity shooting through me and out of me from every direction. It was like magic. I felt an electric shock go through my body, so I figured that meant something. He was so sweet and quiet, harmless. I was like, "Oh my God, I have to be with you. You're not a threat. You're not some D-bag that's going to cause a lot of problems." I had to convince him that I was slightly more responsible and well-spoken and had other things to bring to the table besides being 18. I knew he was gorgeous, and I wanted to get to know him better. I instantly fell in love.
Here's the Thanksgiving we spent with you in Los Angeles.
Oh, this is the episode that Brian was in. This is where I met Brian.
Ooh, who's that hot guy?
Oh, is that that's Brian.
Is Brian Austin Green.
From Beverly Hills 90210?
We dated. Briefly.
Yeah, that was the episode that Brian was on. I met Brian. He recently did an interview and they were saying that I was 17, and that's not true.
It was Kelly, and then I think Ted McGinley, who at the table read was like, yeah, she's 17. So
Yeah,
nobody touched her. I was like, all right, fair enough.
I turned 18 in May, and that was filmed in October. I remember specifically. So I was already 18 when I met him. And yeah, I just was kind of in love with him right away. And he did this thing where he came to the dressing room and he gave his number out to everyone in case anyone needed to call him at some point. But he was giving it to me. I knew he was giving me his number. And my sister was with me, and she was like, because my sister's older, she's 12 years older. She actually watched 90210. I was too young for it. And she was like, "You're not going to be anything but a booty call." I'm nobody's booty call. Okay.
Despite it being love at first sight for Megan, for Brian, it was the exact opposite. The actor recalls pushing Megan away as he had just gotten out of a relationship and didn't think that it was wise to get involved with an 18-year-old. Though he tried to fight it, Brian, then 31, would eventually give in to Megan's persistence. He recalls, "I had just gotten out of a relationship, and I wasn't looking for a relationship at the time. This can't happen. This isn't going to happen. No way." I kept pushing her away early on because I was like, "I don't want a relationship." And then she was like, "Well, cool. I'm going to go date." I was like, "Wait a second. I didn't say go date." So that's when I realized, I was like, I must be really into this situation, because the thought of that kills me. Once Brian made the decision to move forward with Megan, their romance took off as the two became inseparable. Brian, then 31, came with a child from a previous relationship, whose mother, he claims, was barely around. According to the actor, despite only being 18, Megan poured herself into the role of a stepmom as she took the new responsibility seriously. As Brian and Megan's romance heated up, Megan would audition for a role in a movie that would catapult her career. It was 2005 when the breakdown for Transformers was sent to agents. The character that Megan was set to audition for was described as Michaela Baines, a 16-year-old Angelina Jolie, sexy gearhead high school girl who, with her boyfriend, discovers a race of robots and saves the world. According to Megan's agent at the time, as soon as he read the breakdown for the character, he knew that Megan would get the part.
I cannot believe that I'm here right now. Oh, I can turn around if you want. No, not here with you here in this situation. I mean, does Hawkeye equal jerk every time? I must really have a weakness for Hawkeyes. Sam Whitaker. Right. Wiki Sam Wiki. Right. Oh God. Oh no. Sorry, it's new cars. Looking at the kinks, you know. This is like an aluminum Stoker blockage, and it's using race cars. Do you know about the Stoker thing? My dad, before he, left, he's a super grease monkey.
Following her audition, Megan would land the role of Michaela Baines in the action-packed movie Transformers. Michael Bay, director for the film, would say this about Megan. Even though Megan's relatively new to movies, she's incredibly poised and confident, and it's not phony. I also like that no one really knew about her, which can be scary when you think about giving such a big part to someone untested. But the pairing with Shia really worked. They had great energy. Transformers would begin filming on April 19, 2006, at the Holloman Air Force Base in the United States. Set to star alongside Megan were actors Shia LaBeouf, Josh Duhamel, Tyrese Gibson, Anthony Anderson, and Jon Voight, to name a few. After 83 days of intense filming, the movie wrapped and went into post-production. As Megan was gearing up for the release of her first big-budget film, her relationship with Brian Austin Green took a serious turn, with the couple getting engaged in November 2006. Megan was 20 and Brian was 33 years old. On her relationship with Brian, Megan said, "I truly feel like he's my soulmate. I don't want to sound corny or cliche, but I do believe we are destined to live this part of our lives together. The first time I saw him, I got butterflies, and the first time he casually touched me, there was so much electricity." Transformers hit theaters on July 3, 2007, and was a hit. The movie would continue to have great success, as it was the highest-grossing non-sequel film of 2007, earning more than $700 million worldwide. Megan's role as Michaela Baines in the blockbuster sensation would have everyone talking. The media and public wanted to know more about this relatively unknown actress. But unfortunately for Megan, the curiosity had more to do with how she looked than her acting ability. Dubbed America's Next Bombshell, Megan's public persona became quite the sex symbol and every teenage boy's fantasy. According to Megan, this was very upsetting because instead of being recognized for her talent, she was being reduced to just another pretty face. Despite wanting fame ever since she was a little girl, Megan quickly realized that fame came at a price. She recalls, "My success from Transformers was almost entirely a product of my looks. Really, my only job is to look attractive. I was so angry about that I went in the opposite direction. I turned into a really butch bull for like 6 months. I would dress as a boy in giant oversized clothes and skate shoes. I was not taking care of myself smoking 2 packs a day. There was a really overwhelming sense of loneliness because no one knows me, yet everyone knows me. It's a really bizarre feeling. I felt powerless in that image. I didn't feel powerful. It ate every other part of my personality. Not for me, but for how people saw me, because there was nothing else to see or know. That devalued me, because I wasn't anything. I was an image. I was a picture. I was a pose.
I don't think any of us knew how big Transformers was going to be. We had no idea. After that, the first one was released, and after that first press tour, there was this snowball where it went from 0 to 100. It felt like overnight.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no time to sort of sit and process it. It was just all of a sudden I was famous. It's not like all of a sudden I become an actress. I was just all of a sudden a celebrity.
How did you deal with that? Was it something you felt prepared for, or did it take an adjustment?
You can't ever. Are you watching the drive?
Yeah, that's right.
You can't ever prepare yourself for fame. It's a very strange thing, and I can't explain it to people, and it's not something you can understand until you experience it. So there was no preparing for anything.
But would you, just not to harp on that, but just to ask, I mean, was it something that was predominantly enjoyable or predominantly a burden to have to deal with?
I would call it a burden, but I just think it's really it's just bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
In the summer of 2007, following the press tour for Transformers, Megan would fly to London, where she was set to begin shooting the movie, How to Lose Friends and Alienate People. According to the actress, this was a difficult time in her life as she was, quote, manic depressive and a total psychotic nightmare. As far as she was concerned, being a lusted after young actress was a hindrance that caused her reaction to fame to be fairly extreme. Simon Pegg, Megan's co-star in the film, said this about his time working with the actress. I remember when she walked into the room for the first time on How to Lose Friends. Everyone kind of disappeared into a fog, and I couldn't keep eye contact with her when we talked. It was like looking into a really bright light. I remember the first time we had a drink and chatted for a while. She absolutely floored me because before there'd been this quiet wallflower who got nervous about doing scenes. Suddenly, there was this extraordinary, outspoken, complex, smart, experienced person. She's a contradiction, I think. I think she was sometimes doing stuff she wasn't entirely comfortable with. Oddly, for someone who looks as good as she does in her underwear, I think she finds it really difficult being seen that way. It's kind of hypnotic how beautiful she is. I know she had a hard time during How to Lose Friends. I always felt I could have done more to help her in a way. It wasn't until halfway through that I realized she was suffering a bit. I remember coming in one morning and she was in tears. She told me she'd been staying in her room playing with a piece of string all day. She's got a brilliant head on her shoulders. If she doesn't let Hollywood swallow her, she should survive it. I think she's got the smarts to navigate that world. But at the same time, she is incredibly vulnerable. It's fair to say she had a complex upbringing, and in some respects, her intellect is at odds with her appearance. And I think she's got a hill to climb because of what people assume about her, primarily because of the way she looks. There are a lot of genuinely good actors out there who are written off as eye candy, and I think Megan is definitely a victim of that.
Since the rise of your career, I feel like your name in the public eye has been synonymous with the phrase sex symbol, right? How does that make you feel?
I've never been like particularly attached to that, to be honest. I'm not like, I don't have an emotional reaction to that. I don't believe, but let me sit here and analyze it while you're asking me. I think it adds pressure to a girl who, like I said, has body dysmorphia and didn't really ever see herself that way. And the things that I thought were my strengths, like my mind, my intelligence, or my sense of humor, which is granted like very niche sometimes, but those things are not acknowledged, and instead I'm being acknowledged for something that I don't identify with or as. And so that's almost like this artifice. It's like forcing me to wear a character that I wasn't trying to wear. And then also you assign the character to me, and then you torture and demonize the character. And I was never her. Like you created her, and then you murdered her. To just being called a sex symbol, I don't initially have a reaction.
Yeah.
But to the whole process of what really happened, and it's into just being famous in general, and the process of fame has been really haunting, to be honest, because like I said, the media and people built up this character and then decided to destroy her, because I don't know why there's a need to like worship and destroy, worship and then destroy. And I was always a sensitive kid, but I had to wear armor to survive my childhood, and I had to wear armor to survive being famous. And so there's this energy of me of that, that I don't give any fucks. And to some degree that's true in terms of I would never change anything about myself in order to get someone to like me. So in that way, I don't give any fucks. That doesn't mean that I don't get my feelings hurt, and that when I'm being bullied or dragged, that doesn't cause me to be mentally unwell sometimes, because it absolutely does and did.
When filming for How to Lose Friends Wrapped, Megan would go on to shoot the movie Jennifer's Body from March to May of 2008. From there, she would reprise the role as Michaela Baines in Transformers and film the sequel from May to November of that same year. According to Megan, for Jennifer's Body, she had dwindled down to 99 pounds and was a shell of her former self. Not a fan of her recent appearance, Michael Bay, director of Transformers, told Megan that before they began filming the sequel, she needed to gain some weight. The way Bay saw it, she was too thin and too pale. Megan recalls, "For Jennifer's Body, I was like, I'm losing weight for the movie. I decided I would turn myself into a zombie. I got super, super skinny, stayed out of the sun for 4 months, and got to where I was losing my eyelashes and eyebrows. I was telling myself I was being method, which was so outrageous and ridiculous and not true. But I ended up getting sick, and my hair started falling out, and I was like, oh, I can't do this. You lose too much weight. You're not getting your vitamins. You get sick. I was really skinny. I was depressed. And so, Mike doesn't want this little wispy, tiny girl to be the lead in his movie. He wants you to be substantial. He told me to gain 10 pounds and to get a tan. His main note to me is to just look hot, so I try my best." The sequel to Transformers would be filmed all over the world in various locations, such as Egypt, Arizona, and New Mexico, to name a few. Despite Megan feeling quite uncomfortable with how she was portrayed in the first movie, she rejoined the cast and set out to make another blockbuster hit. Josh Duhamel, her co-star in the film, would say this about Megan. "I remember watching Megan walk onto the set in New Mexico in front of 300 American military personnel. It was interesting to watch their reaction. These guys love her and she gets all their attention. And it can't help but be difficult and uncomfortable. That scrutiny can't not affect you. It's tough, especially for a young girl. People tend to only see how beautiful she is. Really, she's very talented and very bright. And I think she is a lot more comfortable now than she was. I think she's grown a lot. Once she learns to trust in herself, she's going to be unstoppable."
Michael Bay makes you an icon.
Okay.
Are you aware?
I'm not aware.
No, come on.
Are you silly? Do you ever just look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I really did it today?
No,
This is the day that I really topped myself.
I thought of a sex icon, the shot on the moto.
Who
You
can't,
knew.
Who can't bend over a motorcycle? What did I do that was so special? It's not like I was doing one-handed push-ups. I just bent over a motorcycle. Yay.
No, that's not true.
Okay, well, I'm magical. What do you want me to say?
No, but really, it's not really about what you did, but what he did.
What
you know?
he did,
Yeah,
sure. I agree
making you looking just gorgeous.
Thank God for Michael Bay. If I could have Michael Bay with me every moment of every day, I would, believe me.
Really? What are you going to do next? Because you are a sex icon. Don't
You are
lie.
so crazy. Go ahead.
No, really. But look at the cover. Yeah. I look at them. And really, what are you gonna do? Did you okay?
You mean like, how will I top myself? Is this what you're asking, or just literally what am I doing next?
Okay, did you play in Transformers 2 to make a Woody Allen's movie, for example? If you know what I mean.
You know, I don't think Woody Allen watches Transformers to scout for new talent for his films. I don't think that happens. I made Transformers 2 because I owed Michael Bay whatever he wants, because he gave me a career. And I love Shia, and I love my crew, and I will come back for them whenever they need me. I feel blessed to think that they need me. It's crazy if they do. But my next, I have movies coming out that I'm actually pretty excited about, that I think are interesting. Whether or not it's, I don't know if I play a big part in making them interesting, but they're movies that I want to watch. So I'm proud of that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
But you know that it's a step from playing in a movie like this and becoming a proper actress.
Right.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree.
And do you
Sure.
want to become a proper actress, and how do you handle it?
What's my plan for becoming a real actress?
I think you are a real actress.
Oh, you are so silly. I've never seen Kate Winslet bend over a motorcycle. I don't know. That's something that some people are just born with the ability to do that, and other people have to work at it. And I think it's something that I'm going to have to work at and study and really commit to and focus on. I think I have the ability to grow definitely as an actress. I don't know how far along I will take myself, but I think I could get to a legitimate, proper actress place at some point in the future.
When filming wrapped on Transformers 2, Megan returned to LA, where she would attend the Golden Globe Awards on January 11, 2009. According to Megan, she was a nervous wreck, as it was her first time attending the star-studded event. While being interviewed on the red carpet, Megan would unfortunately make some controversial comments that would later land her in hot water.
From a hot man to one of the hottest women in the business right now, Megan Fox with me now. Why do you shake your head?
Because I'm pretty sure I'm a doppelganger for Alan Alda.
Oh, here.
I'm a tranny.
You do not look in the mirror and not think you're beautiful. Don't even.
No, I'm so painfully insecure. Like, I'm on the verge of vomiting right now. I'm so horrified that I'm here and embarrassed. I'm scared.
Is this your first time here?
Yeah, it's my first time.
So I love you're watching the monitor. You're looking at Selma Hayek going, God, look how gorgeous she is. Have you looked at yourself lately?
I really want her boobs. Those are the most amazing boobs. Perfect.
You want her boobs, I want your boobs. There, we're all even.
All right, we'll trade.
Is your man, Brian Austin Green, here tonight?
He's not. He doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want to be my date. He's a man. He has an ego.
So he's watching, maybe.
I think he's probably working on music. I don't think he cares.
You don't think he's watching it right now?
No.
What is your diet and exercise regimen? Because I have to ask you, because your body is smoking.
Well, I do have a 22-inch waist. I will say that. But I basically starved myself for a month. I'm kidding. I did a lot of Pilates.
You do?
An immense amount of Pilates.
I love it. You're an honest woman. Thank you so much, Megan, for stopping by. Good luck with everything.
Following Megan's remarks, she would get blasted by the press for having a reckless tongue. In 2021, 12 years after the controversy, Megan would provide context and insight for her behavior that night, saying, I hate wearing my hair back like this. I cannot believe I allowed this to happen because I have a huge round forehead, so I hate wearing my hair slicked back like that. I was sat at a table with Blake Lively and all three Jonas brothers. At the Golden Globes, they always put those giant bottles of champagne on the table. I went through multiple glasses of that. Well, now I don't drink, and this is why. I was belligerent and said a bunch of stuff I shouldn't have said on the red carpet after that. I think I got in a lot of trouble for whatever I said on the red carpet at this event. I don't remember why, but I know that I did. You can look it up. The Golden Globes controversy would be the start of a difficult year for Megan. Following the event, Megan and Brian Austin Green, her fiancé of 2 years, would quietly call it quits and end their engagement in February 2009. It should be noted that at the time, the exes wouldn't publicly reveal why they had separated. But years later, it would be revealed that Megan and her Transformers co-star Shia LaBeouf had a fling while filming. In a 2011 interview, Shia said, "Look, you're on the set for 6 months with someone who's rooting to be attracted to you, and you're rooting to be attracted to them. I never understood the separation of work and life in that situation. But the time I spent with Megan was our own thing, and I think you can see the chemistry on screen." When asked about Megan's status with her longtime boyfriend, Brian Austin Green, when he and Megan were hooking up, Shia replied, "I don't know, man. I don't know. It was what it was." On June 24th, 2009, Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen premiered in theaters and was a box office hit. With the success of Transformers 2, Megan's star was at an all-time high. But upon her success, rumors to how Megan got the role of Michaela Baines in the blockbuster franchise would circulate, after Megan allegedly told a reporter that Bay held a private audition for her at his house. The reporter wrote, "Megan told me she went to director Michael Bay's house to audition, and he made her wash his Ferrari while he filmed her. She said she didn't know what had happened to that footage. When I put it to Bay himself, he looked suitably abashed and said, I don't know where it is either."
There have been reports going around the internets regarding Michael Bay. Apparently he had Megan Fox audition at his house for Transformers. In fact, he had her wash his Ferrari.
Now, that's an interesting question, okay? Because some people are saying, hey, that sounds exploitive, and this was the first Transformers when she was a nobody, and what happened to that videotape? Somebody even asked him, and he was, like, kind of embarrassed. He's like, oh, I don't really know where it went, and I got a pretty good sense of where it went. The flip side is she's being hired to be a sexy woman in the movies, so what's wrong with an audition tape where she's acting sexy and washing his car? What do you think?
Jake, you don't want to get me started on this.
No, I do.
No.
I do.
Well, first of all, Megan Fox is an idiot for doing that.
Mm.
Can you imagine? I don't care if I'm auditioning for a sexy movie role. If the director asked me to go to his house and wash his Ferrari, I would tell him to shove it up his ass.
You would have made a gigantic mistake because Megan Fox is now a multi-millionaire
Right.
for that decision.
Megan Fox was terrible in Transformers. I watched it over the weekend.
Who cares?
No.
She got paid.
Okay.
And she didn't look. If you say, hey, but there's lines you shouldn't cross, right? And so if Michael Bay said, hey, honey, you know how this works, okay? Let me invite you over to the couch. Then I'm with you. But wash a car, make several $1 million,
All right.
and make your career?
All right. Okay, first of all, okay, if he needed her to audition, there should have been other people there, not just him. And also, he videotaped her. Why
Look
the
at
hell?
what she does in the movies. I
know.
How's this
I
different
know.
than her washing the car?
I know. Jake, it's different because she's not filming a movie, okay? She's filming a tape that he's going to wank off to later on.
Well, now you're making assumptions here.
I'm making, yeah, it's speculation, but I think it's pretty obvious.
Look, was it a skeevy move on Michael Bay's part? Almost certainly. Okay. Why is it at your home? Why is she washing your Ferrari? Okay.
Why are you videotaping it?
No, videotaping it. Yeah, you videotape auditions, but this looks like a porn I saw. Where it's like, oh, you came for the audition. Now I need you to wash my car. I mean, it's super cheesy. Let's keep it real. Okay, so is Michael Bay at fault for doing it this way? Yeah, I'm totally with you. Don't get me wrong. Okay.
And how do we know that she just washed his car?
Well, then if you get into that, and if she's polishing other things on him, then we got an issue in America. But otherwise, if it's just washing the car, I feel like, okay, you know what? If I was her, I'd do it. Imagine me on top of the front, foam up with the chest hair and such. Now, do you see what I'm saying? Because that's what she's going for. Sexy chick.
No.
I get it.
She can show her sexiness in other ways. She doesn't need to go to his house and wash his Ferrari.
Once this story began making headlines, Megan was labeled a loose girl who slept her way into the role. She was slut-shamed and ridiculed by the press and public. But it should be noted that in 2020, when Bay came under fire for his past treatment of Megan, Megan spoke out in his defense and cleared up this rumor. In an Instagram post, Megan wrote in part, "It's important to note that when I auditioned for Transformers, I was 19 or 20. I did work, me pretending to know how to hold a wrench, on one of Michael's Ferraris during one of the audition scenes. It was at the Platinum Dunes studio parking lot. There were several other crew members and employees present, and I was at no point undressed or anything similar. So as far as this particular audition story, I was not underaged at the time, and I was not made to wash or work on someone's cars in a way that was extraneous from the material in the actual script. When it comes to my direct experiences with Michael, I was never assaulted or preyed upon in what I felt was a sexual manner." Following the success of Transformers 2, Megan was excited to move forward and show the world that she was a solid actress and not just eye candy. Gearing up for the release of her follow-up movie, Jennifer's Body, Megan was ready to show the world what she could do. But prior to its release, Megan would find herself once again in hot water after she made some controversial comments about Transformers director Michael Bay. Megan's comments would make headlines, and her career would never be the same. In the interview, when asked about what it was like working for Bay, Megan said, "He's like Napoleon, and he wants to create this insane, infamous, madman reputation. He wants to be like Hitler on sets, and he is. So he's a nightmare to work for. But when you get him away from set, and he's not in director mode, I kind of really enjoy his personality because he's so awkward. He has no social skills at all, and it's endearing to watch him. He's vulnerable and fragile in real life, and then on set, he's a tyrant." When asked, does being a better actor matter if you're just really hot, Megan responded, "Yeah, it does matter. Well, not to Michael Bay, because those are literally his directions sometimes. Be hot. I've had that note on set before. Mike, I'll say, who am I talking to? Where am I supposed to be looking at? And he responds, just be sexy. I get mad when people talk to me like that. Then again, audiences don't come to Transformers to see us. They're there to see the devastation and the explosions. I don't want to trash the movie. It's a fun movie. People tend to think that I hate it, and I don't, because clearly none of us should take it seriously. That movie is clearly the reason I'm recognizable at all." Following Megan's statement in comparing Bay to Hitler, she would suffer severe backlash in the media. Days after the interview was published, 3 of Bay's crew members posted a 3-page open letter on the internet, ripping the actress to pieces. According to them, Megan was a talentless witch who should be thankful that Bay even gave her a chance in the first place. In part, their letter said this: "We have worked with Michael for the past 10 years. Last week, we read the terrible article with inflammatory, truly trashing quotes by Miss Fox about Michael Bay. This letter is to set a few things straight. Yes, Megan has great eyes, a tight stomach we spray tan with glycerin, and an awful silly Marilyn Monroe tattoo plastered on her arm that we cover up to keep the moms happy. Michael found this shy, inexperienced girl, plucked her out of total obscurity, thus giving her the biggest shot of any young actress's life. He told everyone around to just trust him on his choice. He granted her the starring role in Transformers, a franchise that forever changed her life. She became the most Googled and ogled woman on Earth. She was famous. She was the next Angelina Jolie. Wait a minute. 2 of us worked with Angelina? Second thought, she's no Angelina. You see, Angelina is a professional. We know this quite intimately because we've had the tedious experience of working with the dumb as a rock Megan Fox on both Transformers movies. One of us touches Megan's panties. The other has the crappy job of pulling Miss Sourpants out of her trailer, while another is near the Panaflex camera that helps to memorialize the Valley Girl on film. Megan has the press fooled. Megan knows how to smile for the press. Those writers should try being on set for 2 movies. Sadly, she never smiles. We've traveled around the world together, so we have never understood why Megan was always such the grump on set. When facing the press, Megan is the queen of talking trailer trash and posing like a porn star. And yes, we've had the unbearable time of watching her try to act on set. And yes, it's very cringeable. So maybe being a porn star in the future might be a good career option. But makeup, beware. She has a paragraph tattooed to her backside, probably due to her rotten childhood. Easily another 45 minutes in the chair. So when we caught wind of Miss Fox pontificating yet again in some publication like she actually has something interesting to say, blabbing her trash mouth about a director whom we have grown to really like, she compared working with Michael to working with Hitler. We don't think she knows who Hitler is, by the way. But we wondered how she doesn't realize what a disgusting, fully uneducated comment this was. Michael, yes, at times he can be hard, but he's also fun, and he challenges everyone for a reason. He comes prepared, knows exactly what he wants, involves the crew, and expects everyone to follow through with his or her best. He's one of the hardest working directors out there. Megan says that Transformers was an unsafe set. Come on, Megan. We know it is a bit more strenuous than the playground at the trailer park. But you don't insult one of the very best stunt and physical effects teams in the business. Megan Fox is very different from the Academy nominees and winning actors we've all worked around. She's about as ungracious a person as you can ever fathom. She shows little interest in the crew members around her. We work hard to make her look good, but she's absolutely never appreciative of anyone's hard work, never a thank you. All the crew members have stopped saying hi to Miss Princess because she never says hi back. Megan has been late to the sets many times. She goes through the motions that make her exude this sense of misery. Never expect Megan to attend any of the 15 crew parties like all the other actors have. This is the Megan Fox you don't get to see. Maybe she will learn, but we figure if she can sling insults, then she can take them too. Megan really is a thankless, classless, graceless, and shall we say unfriendly bee. It's sad how fame can twist people, but fame is fleeting. We being behind the scenes seen him come and go. Hopefully Michael will have Megatron squish her character in the first 10 minutes of Transformers 3.
Megan Fox has been slammed by 3 crew members of Transformers.
Slammed?
Literally slammed. I mean...
Not literally slammed. They didn't pick her up and slam her.
No, I know. Verbally slammed.
All right.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So
that would be amazing. That'd be up.
That'd be so funny.
They're like, oh yeah, now you had this coming. No, don't. Okay.
So they literally wrote this 3 or 4 page long letter about Megan Fox, because Megan Fox has been doing her round of interviews, and she said that Michael Bay, working with Michael Bay is like working with Hitler.
Oh.
All right, so she's been going around saying some negative things about Michael Bay, and these three crew members were not happy. They were not having it. So it was a very, very long letter that they sent to a bunch of different publications.
Is working like with Michael Bay equivalent of working with Hitler? Well, I don't want to get too graphic here, okay? But my guess is that Michael Bay did not exterminate you, okay, to say the least, right? Come on, look, he made you into a mega star with millions of dollars from nothing to being absolutely famous. I mean, it's to me incredibly offensive to mention Hitler in the same sentence.
Right.
Okay, not offensive to Michael Bay, offensive to what to the victims. I don't want to get too heavy on you, right? But to the victims of the genocide. Come on, man. I mean, that's just so callous, and it makes you look so stupid that I don't see how anyone could root for Megan Fox after that.
Mm-hmm. No, I see what you're saying. Megan Fox doesn't seem to think before she speaks.
The ironic side effect of this is that I'm no fan of Michael Bay at all. His movies don't appeal to me, right? Mm-hmm. Now I'm rooting for Michael Bay. Like, Megan Fox got me rooting for Michael Bay.
Oh, you're going to root for Michael Bay even more after I tell you the rest of this story.
All right.
So I guess Michael Bay found out about this letter, and he had a response about it.
Okay.
A response to it. He said, I don't condone the crew letter to Megan. I don't condone Megan's outlandish quotes. But her crazy quips are part of her crazy charm. The fact of the matter is I still love working with her, and I know we will still get along. I even expect more crazy quotes from her on Transformers 3.
Oh, classy.
Classy.
But
Which leads me to believe they slept together.
Oh.
Remember the audition?
Yes. Okay. Let me give a couple conjectures here. Mm-hmm. One, I love your hypothesis. Okay. Mm-hmm. In fact, now it's too late for me to take credit because you said it, right? But and there was a picture along with that story, right? And I was looking and I was like, man, he's being awfully nice to her, right? What does she have on him? And she's being such a with thinking that there's going to be no repercussions. It seems like she thinks I can say whatever the hell I want about this guy, and nothing's going to happen to me. And I had the same thought you did. I'm like, she's got something on him, right?
Remember, and just for our audience members who don't remember, when she was auditioning for Transformers, she went to Michael Bay's house and watched his Ferrari. That was her audition.
Yeah, and then he kept the tape. You see what I'm saying? Like, kept it in his personal file. So if it's not that they slept together, it's something, right? Something that Michael Bay doesn't want getting out. Maybe that's why you shouldn't screw around with your actresses, okay? Because it's going to cost you a lot of money later, right? So, but then the final thing, though, is that crew letter was on Michael Bay's website before he pulled it. And he said, no, I don't condone this. Kind of convenient, if you ask me. Like, oh, look at that. Look at this 3-page letter slamming Megan Fox on my website. Mm-hmm. Well, golly gee willikers, I'll have to pull that. And then also remember, he stuck his neck out for her in hiring her. If he says that she sucks, then he made a mistake. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't want to admit making a mistake either. So there's a lot at play here. Drama. We bring you the drama.
There's going to be a Transformers 3. Mm-hmm. Is that necessary?
Following this scandal, Megan's movie, Jennifer's Body, would be released in theaters on September 18th, 2009. Contrary to the success of Transformers, Jennifer's Body would be panned at the box office and flop. According to Megan, 2009 had been quite a difficult year, as she found herself in several controversies that would significantly affect her career. However challenging, Megan would find comfort in the arms of her ex-fiancé, Brian Austin Green, who she had quietly reconciled with by the end of that year. Moving into 2010, Megan was ready to put 2009 behind her and accomplish her professional goals. But unfortunately for Megan, 2009 would be the peak of her career. In 2010, Megan wouldn't have much commercial success professionally, as 2 out of the 3 movies that she starred in bombed at the box office. Additionally, Megan was being slammed in the media and criticized relentlessly. Tabloids attacked her acting, attacked her relationship, and attacked her appearance. According to Megan, the constant scrutiny was too much to bear, as it sent her spiraling into mental despair.
In 2009, crossing into 2010, I had been famous not even that long, only a couple of years, but the fame was so heightened, it was so intense that all the energy started peaking, and I was going through this process of I was getting crucified in the press every day and on whatever the blogs were at that time. There was no social media, but like Perez Hilton and like, was it Nikki Swift? There was some other blog that was so mean.
Yeah.
Daily Mail,
Do you
whatever.
remember what they would like say about you?
The same exact things they say right now. You could swap the articles from this year with 2009 and 2010. It's the exact same thing. Obviously, like being a slut, being a whore. Now I have kids for people to project on and be like, but you're a shitty mom. I didn't have that at the time, but it was just like, you're a shitty person for whatever reason. Plastic surgery, fake, talentless. There's so many so many headlines. I used to get chased by paparazzi who would be like, Megan, everybody's saying that you're overrated. Do you think that you're overrated? Megan, everybody's saying that you shouldn't have got your nose done. Nobody likes your new nose. Are you embarrassed that you got your nose done? Are you sad? Do you regret getting your nose done? Megan, why are you such a bitch? Why does nobody like you? Like grown men, right? Chasing you with, back then this was like TMZ cameras. They don't talk to you like that anymore, but back then they did. So you're in life getting bullied by actual grown adult men with cameras everywhere you go. Then there's like the online presence of just getting torn to shreds for everything that you do, everything that you wear, how you look, every single flaw, every pimple, every scar, every 5 pounds you gain, 5 pounds you lose. You can't win. And that energy was peaking, and it was every day. And during 2009, they had a blackout, a Megan Fox blackout, where the media all agreed to not post any content about me for a whole day. Which, by the way, I was like, I hope you do this every day.
Right, thank you.
But the attitude was that, that I was a fame whore or an attention whore, which is the opposite of the truth. I'm extremely introverted and horrified by having to be in front of people or cameras. But it got so bad at that point, I was just like, hey, I can't survive the criticism and the bullying anymore. Like, I actually can't live every time I step out of my house, someone has something to say about how I look, or it started to become a witch hunt where I felt like tabloids would send photographers with the intention of getting a bad photograph or getting a bad story. This was around the time, it may have been a little before, but it was in the years of when Britney shaved her head. And so the media at that time, they were on witch hunts, and they would set out to try and find something negative, the ugliest picture they could get to splash it everywhere, because that's what people want to, that gets the most engagement, obviously, even back then before
of course
socials existed. And that's when I sort of stepped away for a long time. And I was like, I'm good to just not be involved in this anymore because I actually can't sustain this amount of damage. It's not normal. And I also feel like it was kind of just me at that time, whereas now all of us get it. There's so many other girls that are getting it constantly. But back then, it really was kind of just me. There wasn't another actress that was getting it the same way I was getting it.
With the constant negativity, Megan began to retreat and distance herself from the public eye. She felt that the media was being excessively cruel in their coverage of her and bullying her out of Hollywood. But despite this difficult time, there would be a high point for Megan in 2010. According to the actress, her secret nuptials to Brian Austin Green on June 24th of that year would be the highlight of her life. Megan was 24 and Brian was 36 years old. Following their wedding, Brian told the media, "We have the most backwards, effed up love story you've ever heard. And it worked. And the day that I said I do, I've never been more sure of anything in my life. And it was the absolute perfect start to what we hope will be an amazing life together." Following her nuptials, Megan tried to settle into married life, But with rumors swirling that Megan would not reprise the role as Michaela Baines in Transformers 3, Megan found herself back in the headlines and criticized relentlessly. It would be revealed that back in 2009, Michael Bay fired Megan after she made comments comparing him to Hitler. As the story goes, Steven Spielberg, who executive produced Transformers, told Bay that he needed to cut Megan loose. Megan's co-star Shia LaBeouf would give some insight into her firing. He said, Megan developed this Spice Girl strength, this woman empowerment stuff that made her feel awkward about her involvement with Michael, who some people think is a very lascivious filmmaker, the way he films women. Mike films women in a way that appeals to a 16-year-old sexuality. It's summer, it's Michael style. And I think Megan never got comfortable with it. This is a girl who was taken from complete obscurity and placed in a sex-driven role in front of the whole world and told she was the sexiest woman in America. And she had a hard time accepting it. When Mike would ask her to do specific things, there was no time for fluffy talk. And the one thing Mike lacks is tact.
Turns out that there was a lot of drama behind the set for the Transformer movies. And Shia LaBeouf did...
I never know how to pronounce that guy's name. Okay.
This is a super interesting story.
Okay,
so
super interesting.
He had done an interview where he said that the reason why Megan Fox was fired was because she had this whole female enlightenment moment where she didn't want to be...
She looks enlightened there.
She didn't want to be the sexy girl in the movie. She wanted to have more substance, right?
Really?
And she felt a little degraded by the way Michael Bay would have her run around with her boobannies out. Mm-hmm. She wanted to do more. Okay. Well, I thought to myself, well, okay, if she feels that way, it's fair to feel that way.
God bless.
But you can't say that and then go do, those photo shoots where you have your butt out and you're in lingerie. No. But anyway, that doesn't even turn out to be the reason why she got fired. Mm-hmm. When Michael Bay spoke to GQ magazine, she told them that he told them, the Hitler thing. Steven Spielberg said, "Fire her right now," and she had basically called Michael Bay Hitler. Mm-hmm. And Steven Spielberg, who's the executive producer of the film, he wasn't buying it. He was not happy with it. So he's like, you got to get rid of her. Out.
Right. Yeah. Shocking that it turns out calling your boss Hitler wasn't a brilliant career move. I didn't see that coming. But if she wanted to be taken more seriously, I'm not sure that was the way to go. Okay, look, I'm going to prove to you how smart I am. My boss is Hitler. What? I got fired? Wait a minute. I wanted you to judge my intellect. Well, we partly are. Congratulations. So, and look, here's the thing, right? Look, you want to be taken more seriously, there's no problem with that, but you don't have to call people out in public. You just make more serious roles.
Right.
I mean, you've built up a tremendous amount of leverage in Hollywood doing these movies, right or wrong, right? And if you feel uncomfortable with it, no problem, don't do the next movie, right? You've already got a lot of money, and then start taking really serious roles. But going around calling everybody Hitler, or your boss Hitler, that doesn't help anybody, and it's not like he made you take the job. He gave you a job, you decided that you were going to wear those outfits, etc., and I don't think it's a big deal, but if you think it's a big deal, and then you shouldn't have taken the job, and you shouldn't have taken those millions of dollars. You want to give that money back?
Following news that Megan had been fired from the Transformers franchise, she would be featured in a few films in 2012 that wouldn't particularly elevate her as an actress. With her career at an all-time low, Megan focused on her marriage and expanding her family instead. After months of speculation that the actress was pregnant, she would publicly announce that she and Brian had welcomed a son on September 27, 2012. Following the birth, Megan would settle into motherhood as her career hung in the balance. But in April 2013, the media would be in for a shock when it was announced that Megan would be starring in Michael Bay's upcoming movie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This news was quite surprising, given Megan and Bay's history. But according to the actress, after having much time to self-reflect, she was able to resolve her issues with the director. In looking back on her behavior that led to her 2009 firing from the Transformers franchise, Megan said, "That was absolutely the low point of my career. But without that thing, I wouldn't have learned as quickly as I did. All I had to do was apologize, and I refused. I was so self-righteous at 23. I couldn't see that it was for the greater good. I really thought I was Joan of Arc. It hurt me and a lot of other people. However, that darkness that descended caused enormous and brisk spiritual growth. Once I realized I had brought it on myself, it was an invaluable learning experience looking back on it. Prior to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles' release, Megan and Brian Austin Green welcomed their second child, another boy, on February 12, 2014. Several months later, on August 6, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles hit the big screen and was a box office success, despite mixed reviews from critics. As this film helped rejuvenate Megan's career, she signed on for the sequel, which was set to begin filming in 2015. But as Megan's career began looking up, her marriage to Brian Austin Green would implode, causing the actress to file for divorce in August 2015. A source told the Daily Mail, Megan has separated from Brian. They decided it 6 months ago. Things have been rocky. The tension in their relationship was over her constant absence as she made film after film. This summer, she was in New York City filming the sequel for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They fight about her career. She was obsessed with getting roles. Brian would have liked Megan to spend more time at home in LA with him and their 2 children, but she has a very independent streak that does not sit well with Brian. She had gone off and done her own thing recently. Megan worked a lot last year, and she continues to work a lot. When she is away, Brian stays with the kids, which frustrates him. Megan and Brian split is a classic Hollywood story of 2 people in different stages of life and career.
I feel like, first of all, let me just say, I was not a great girlfriend to Brian. I will be very honest. And he was not great to me either all the time, but I think it would be easy for me to lean into and complain about or let it seem like that relationship was one way that maybe I was not great, because I was young and really should not have been in a relationship of that level of commitment and that magnitude with I shouldn't have been involved in that when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I shouldn't have been. So I did a lot of falling in love with other people all the time. I would go to work and fall in love because I was a kid. And I never had the full freedom to be single and experience that life.
It literally makes your skin crawl when you think about marriage, but you did get married. How did you decide to do that?
I think because then I was so unaware of my feelings because I was so much younger, and this was before I had my kids, and most of my growth and awareness came after childbirth. So prior to that, I just wasn't aware that, marriage makes me feel any particular way. That was something I did kind of impulsively. Also, it was like an adventure to go on and to do. And I'd already been with him for so many years at that point. And I do feel like karmically I was supposed to have those kids with him, of course. So I didn't realize, I wasn't looking at myself being like, I'm reenacting my mother's life, I'm carrying my mother's burdens, or I'm carrying, the things that she projected onto me. I was not able to recognize any of that. I was just in the moment and had not had therapy or anything like that. And I had not started reading and educating myself. So I was just acting and doing. And I got myself into a relationship, which I, of course, found, no shade to Brian, unfulfilling, because inevitably that's what I was going to do because I was reenacting what I watched my mother do as a child.
Yeah.
6 months following Megan's decision to divorce Brian, rumors that she was pregnant with her 3rd child began making headlines. At the time, Megan would neither confirm nor deny if the rumors were true. But in April 2016, the actress arrived at CinemaCon with a pregnant belly on full display. Megan's appearance at this event sent the media into a tailspin. With confirmation that she was in fact pregnant, the tabloids wanted to know who the baby's father was. Since Meghan filed for divorce in August of 2015, everyone was curious. It wouldn't take long before the media began speculating as to who the father was. In an effort to shut down the speculation, Meghan took to social media. In a since-deleted post, Meghan uploaded pictures of herself posing with Jake Johnson, Shia LaBeouf, and Will Arnett with the hashtag #NotTheFather. According to Meghan, the father's identity was his and her business alone. On June 3, 2016, the sequel to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles premiered in theaters and was a box office failure. It failed to live up to the hype and underperformed. Due to its poor performance, plans for a third installment were later scrapped. Though this news was disappointing for Meghan, she had more important things on her plate. 1 month prior to the birth of her third child, she and her estranged husband, Brian Austin Green, reconciled. Together, the couple welcomed their youngest son on August 4, 2016. Despite Meghan and Brian having quite a toxic and tumultuous relationship, according to them, they loved each other and were committed to their family. Brian said, "Marriage is hard. It's work, I think, for anyone. I think when you get to the point like we have, where you have kids and you've been married for a while, and we've been together for a long time, you just take it day by day. We have 3 amazing kids. We've had and have a great relationship, and we're just taking it day by day." As Meghan and Brian attempted to restore their marriage, Meghan continued to work and book movies. In 2018, she signed on to star alongside her Transformers co-star, actor Josh Duhamel, in the film Think Like a Dog. But not long after filming began, reports that Brian was jealous and uncomfortable with how close Josh and Meghan appeared to be began making headlines. A source said, "Meghan and Josh have real chemistry on and off the set. It's left Brian feeling really jealous. Meghan tries to calm him down by telling him that Josh is nothing more than an old friend, but he's not listening to reason. Meghan insists that her bond with Josh goes no further than sharing stories about their children. But Brian's still uneasy. He and Meghan are headed for trouble again." Despite rumors that Meghan and Brian's marriage was on the rocks, Meghan would file to dismiss their divorce case in 2019. But in May of 2020, after appearing in Machine Gun Kelly's music video Bloody Valentine, Meghan would be spotted out and about with the rapper. Soon enough, rumors that Meghan had split from Brian Austin Green and was now dating Machine Gun Kelly quickly made headlines. Though Meghan would maintain her silence and avoid addressing the rumors, Brian would later reveal on his podcast that he and his wife of 10 years had, in fact, called it quits.
So I think the best thing for me to do is to start at the beginning of all of it. Just to, again, I want to paint context. So last year around Halloween, Thanksgiving time, Meghan was out of the country shooting a film. And she was gone for about 5.5 weeks. It was the longest that she's been gone working. And so I was at home with the kids and everything was fine. And, but I had this dream that she came back from work and that we were distant, that things were off, that things were weird. And I sent her a text that day and I was like, "Hey, I had this dream last night," which shocked her because I don't ever really dream. And I told her what it was, and she texted me back and she said, I'm really sorry that you had that. That's terrible. And so I felt better. I felt like, okay, well, I just had a dream, that we were distant, but everything's fine. And then she got back from being out of the country and working, and we were distant. It was almost exactly what I had dreamed. But I gave her a couple weeks. I figured, she's been out of the country. She's jet lagged. She's been shooting nights. I have to give her some time to recoup a little bit and get back into life. And so I did. And about 2 weeks had passed, and things hadn't really changed. They hadn't progressed. We weren't feeling any closer towards each other. And I wasn't, and so I'd sent her a text that day saying, hey, you know, I've given you a couple weeks. I understand if you're jet lagged, and if that's the case and you're tired and you're recouping, I totally understand that. Should I be concerned about our marriage if that's not the case? And she responded back, hey, let's talk about it later. So she came home because she had been working that day. She came home later, and we sat down in the living room and we talked about it. And she said, you know what? I realized while I was out of the country working alone that I feel more like myself, and I like myself better. I liked myself better during that experience. And I think that might be something worth trying for me. And I was shocked and I was upset about it, but I can't be upset at her, and I wasn't upset at her because she didn't ask to feel that way. She didn't, it wasn't a choice she made. That's the way she honestly felt. And so we talked about it some more, and we decided, you know what, let's separate a little bit and give ourselves some time and take some space and meditate and do whatever and see what it is we find. And things just didn't really change from there. And the reality started sinking in of maybe this is what it is. Like, the reality is we've been together for 15 years, and we've been married for 10, and we have 3 amazing children. And there's the sense of loss of, how do I go on with this big part of my life that I've always known and loved and shared, changing? Like, what does that landscape look like? Like, what does that life look like? Megan has continued working and doing that. And, she met this guy Coulson on set, on this film she's working on. I've never met him. Goes by Machine Gun Kelly. I've never met him, but Megan and I have talked about him, and they're friends at this point. And from what she's expressed, he's a really just nice, genuine guy. And I don't want people to think that her or he are villains, or I was a victim in any way with any of this, because I wasn't. This isn't something new for us. This is something new for people to experience and hear about in the press and take sides on and judge and critique, but it's not new for us. Megan and Coulson they're good friends at this point. She said he's just been a really good friend, which she needed. And I don't want her to be looked at in a negative way, or him to be looked at in a negative way for doing that. That's what good people do. Good people step up and help people that need help. And that's what he's doing. But it's a shame during this time that they were photographed and that a story was made of it. But there is no story there. The story is with us, and hopefully with me doing this, there is no more story. There are no more questions to ask. Everything's sort of laid out. People get a sense of like where our heads are at and what's going on. And I really lost sleep last night. Like, I don't want her to be villainized in this at all. Or I don't want this guy Colson, who I've never met, who she said nothing but really kind things about. I don't want him to be vilified because nobody did anything wrong. It's not like we are separating or anything because somebody cheated or somebody hurt somebody. I feel like, people are on paths in life sometimes, and you're on the same path and you walk that path together and things are working, and then paths just kind of separate sometimes. And it's not a choice that somebody makes. It just, people sort of find new things that interest them and new directions that they want to take in life. And the person that they're with may not be on that same path. They may want to take a completely different direction in life. It sucks. It sucks when life changes and something that you're used to, that you've been doing for 15 years, you try and not get rid of, but you change because there's the unknown aspect to it. And that's really scary. And there's that thing of like, there's that pit in my stomach of like, I really don't want, Megan and I to be at odds, because at the end of it all, like, we've been married and we've done all that, but she's been my best friend for 15 years.
Yeah.
And I don't want to lose that.
Following Brian's confession that he and Megan were no longer together, Brian would frequently make public statements expressing his love and desire to one day reconcile with his wife. But despite Brian's attempts, Megan would publicly confirm her relationship with Machine Gun Kelly during a joint interview on the Give Them La La podcast in July 2020. In the interview, Megan and her new beau discussed how they met, how they fell in love, and how they were soulmates.
Are you guys like shook that it's like out there now that you guys are together?
No.
Definitely not.
I don't think
Well, I know. Trust me, Colson. I know you're not shooketh at all. But like, what was that? You guys come to Puerto Rico to just do a movie.
Oh no, I don't know.
Was it like when you stepped on set? Was it like a vibe or? Like,
I mean, I'll just tell my version and then you can tell your version afterwards. We were doing the table read in that room over there.
Yeah.
And we read through, and this character that Colson was going to play, obviously that the actor wasn't there. And I was like, who's going to play this role? That. And he was like, oh, we just got Machine Gun Kelly. And immediately I was like, uh-oh. Because I knew.
Really?
Yeah. Because I knew I could feel that some wild shit was going to happen to me from that meeting, but I wasn't yet sure what. I just felt it like deep in my
God, I had no idea
that something was going to come from that. So then we met
on set.
Yeah.
And I waited out. Our trailers were next to each other, so I just waited outside on my trailer step every day I worked. Just
I had no idea.
Glimpse of eye contact, because she would have to get out her car and go to her walk from her car to her trailer, and there was like 5 steps in between the car and the door, and I would just sit there and like hope.
I am
shocked
this was going on day one, like meeting the feeling. The feeling.
The second that I was in a room with him and said hello to him and looked into his eyes, I knew, because I'm into all of this stuff, I knew right away that he was what I call a twin flame, which is...
What does that mean?
So instead of a soulmate, a twin flame is actually where a soul has like ascended to a high enough level that it can be split into 2 different bodies at the same time. Okay. So we're actually 2 halves of the same soul, I think.
Wow.
And I said that to him almost immediately.
What?
Because I felt it right away. And so I think it was the second day I asked him to come into my trailer for lunch. And I put him through all of this astrology stuff. I think I asked him 900,000 questions about everything, his whole life. Like, I made him recap it in 30 minutes. And then
You had no more than 30 minutes to eat.
No more than 30 minutes.
So
I went deep right away.
What?
And I knew before I even did his chart, I said to him, he has a Pisces moon. I could tell by his energy.
And you said that to him?
And he does, yeah.
The whole first all the first texts and conversations that we had was that night, and they were on the way home, and they were all what the universe was saying about us. It was none of that. We didn't share any like, what are you feeling? What am I
None of
feeling?
that.
What is it? It was all like, oh my God, the universe said this and this and this.
What?
Following their joint interview, Megan and Machine Gun Kelly made their relationship Instagram official on July 28, 2020. The announcement caused quite the frenzy, as the pair were seen as such an unbelievably attractive couple. 6 months into their relationship, the couple made their red carpet debut at the 2020 American Music Awards. 4 days after the event, Megan filed for divorce from Brian Austin Green on November 25, 2020. Though Megan seemed content with her decision to dissolve her marriage to Brian, on the other hand, was struggling with the loss. A source said, "It's a tough situation. As a dad, Brian is great. He is wonderful with the boys. The issue is that he is bitter that Megan moved on so quickly with Kelly. It's been very hard for him. His behavior can be pretty immature when it comes to Megan, though. He knows how to get Megan upset. In the past, he was advised to chill out and just focus on doing the right thing for the boys." After having introduced her sons to Machine Gun Kelly in the latter part of 2020, Megan's relationship with the rapper took off. In an interview, Megan described her love for MGK as intense, like a tsunami or forest fire. She said their bond was so strong and out of control that nothing in this world could ever contain it. Over the course of several months, Megan and Machine Gun Kelly gave several interviews gushing about their romance. But with their love on full display, Megan would come under fire following her appearance at the MTV VMAs in September 2021. Dressed in a sparkling, sheer gown, Megan made a comment that would upset the feminist community.
He was like, "You're gonna be naked tonight," and I was like, "Whatever you say, Daddy. Whatever Daddy says."
Are you proud of him?
Very proud. He's the most talented boy in the world.
And then you're pretty talented too, seeing you in Bloody Valentine. Are you guys going to collaborate more when it comes to your music videos in the future?
I mean, yeah, he's not allowed to have other hoes in his music video. It's the queen or no one.
I still do a lot of things that are so provocative for some reason, like regardless of which community it is. I was being celebrated as being a feminist until I had the nerve to call my boyfriend daddy, and then a lot of people got upset about that.
The backlash Megan received for her comment at the VMAs wouldn't be the last time she said or did something that would land her in hot water. Over the course of her relationship with Machine Gun Kelly, Megan would be criticized for displaying inappropriate and provocative behavior. She was criticized for her attire, which appeared to be more edgy and revealing than when she was with Brian Austin Green. Megan would also be attacked as a mother, with many calling her an absentee mom, as she was seen frequenting parties with Machine Gun Kelly and seemingly living a rock and roll type lifestyle. But despite the criticism, Megan would provoke the media once more. On January 11, 2022, when announcing her engagement to Machine Gun Kelly on social media, Megan revealed that she and the rapper consume each other's blood. In a since-deleted Instagram post, Megan said, "We were oblivious to the pain we would face together in such a short, frenetic period of time, unaware of the work and sacrifices the relationship would require from us, but intoxicated off of the love and the karma." Somehow, a year and a half later, having walked through hell together and having laughed more than I ever imagined possible, he asked me to marry him. And just as in every lifetime before this one, and as in every lifetime that will follow it, I said yes. And then we drank each other's blood. Megan's confession that she and Machine Gun Kelly consumed each other's blood caused quite the reaction, with commenters calling the couple Satanists. The public also took issue with the fact that Megan's divorce from Brian Austin Green hadn't been finalized yet. But despite the negativity surrounding their engagement, Meghan and Machine Gun Kelly would assert that the love they shared was far deeper and more complex than anyone could ever understand.
What is the craziest rumor you've ever heard about yourself on the internet?
There's lots of those. We could talk about that for a while. Let's talk about it for a while.
Okay, let's talk about it.
I guess one of the ones that's very persistent is that I'm like satanic or do satanic rituals or maybe adjacent to Illuminati or something in that vein, which I think really started. I don't know why it started. There was just like that one time that I said I drink blood ritualistically. And then everybody was like, wow, she's into satanic rituals.
Classic.
But that was a very misunderstood thing. Let me try to explain it.
Yeah, give us like some context.
Okay, here's the context. Everything is a matter of like what you're accustomed to or what is currently like socially acceptable or normal. And back in like the 50s even, how many times did you see, like, probably never, but like on Leave It to Beaver or like movies from back then or even the 80s, how many times did you see like little boys would go out with like their little pop guns and they would cut their fingers and like be blood brothers, right? And they're like, we're best friends forever now. And they would like smush the blood together on their fingers. That's not satanic, right? That's normal and that's cute. That's sweet. That's like an innocent, like
little bond.
Yeah, it's a little bond between kids who love each other. They have a pure friendship. It's like that, except instead of rubbing your fingers together, the drop of blood goes in your mouth. But definitely have never been a part of a satanic ritual. Don't know any people who've been a part of a satanic ritual. I'm not sure if the Illuminati is real. It probably is. I have not been extended an offer to join. I feel like if it was real, I would have been given an offer to join by now. So yeah, it's just to squash that. Not a Satanist or any kind of like an evil witch, light worker. Yes, I do, rituals, but that's not a negative thing. Anything is a ritual. Doing your skincare routine is a ritual. Going to church is a ritual. So I think people have to separate that word. That word has been demonized for so long.
Yeah.
That it's just been very misunderstood. And also, I think we exacerbated it because Halloween of that year, I dressed up in bondage with a dog collar around my neck, and he dressed up as a priest, and he was feeding me communion on my knees, and we played Marilyn Manson's Sweet Dreams. We played that. That was the song to the and people felt like that was a confirmation of the satanic rituals.
So you can kind of see like where people may like
I can see where I planted a seed and there grew a tree.
1 month after announcing her engagement to Machine Gun Kelly, Megan Fox's divorce from Brian Austin Green would be finalized. Megan was now legally able to marry another. But in February 2023, 1 year after getting engaged, rumors that Machine Gun Kelly had cheated on Megan during Super Bowl weekend began making headlines. After attending Drake's Super Bowl party with Machine Gun Kelly, Megan scrubbed all photos and videos of the rapper from her Instagram account. She then uploaded selfies of herself, captioning the post with lyrics that read, "You can taste the dishonesty. It's all over your breath." According to reports, Megan allegedly found texts and DMs on Machine Gun Kelly's phone, which led her to believe that the rapper was having an affair. After uploading this post, Megan would then delete her entire Instagram account and go off the grid. But several days later, a teary-eyed Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly would be spotted leaving a couple's counseling office together, according to a source. The lovers were working through some trust issues. 1 week after the scandal made headlines, Megan resurfaced on Instagram with the following message: "There has been no third-party interference in this relationship of any kind. That includes, but is not limited to, actual humans, DMs, AI bots, or succubus demons. While I do hate to rob you of running random, baseless news stories that would have been much more accurately written by ChatGPT, You need to let this story die. Over the next few months, Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly would pump the brakes on their relationship as they worked through their issues in therapy. Plans for their upcoming nuptials would also come to a halt. Megan Fox's relationship with Machine Gun Kelly was quite volatile, similar to her relationship with Brian Austin Green. Megan and MGK had a very roller coaster-like relationship, constantly up and down. But despite the toxicity, Megan and Machine Gun Kelly would officially reconcile by the summer of 2023. Having gone through so much trauma with men, Megan decided to write about these experiences in her new book, Pretty Boys Are Poisonous, which was set to be released on November 3rd of that year. The book, which consists of poems written by the actress, discuss heavy themes such as childhood trauma, DV, SA, and self-harm, to name a few. In an effort to explore her relationship with men, Megan penned these vulnerable pieces of poetry. In a letter to her readers, Megan writes, "All of my healers tell me that my throat chakra is blocked. In case you aren't familiar, the throat chakra is the energy center that is related to communication. Usually, when someone's throat chakra is closed, it's because they are not able to identify their feelings and articulate them in a way that is aligned with their emotions and intentions. I don't have this problem. My problem is that I deeply identify my feelings in multitudinous ways of articulating them, but I am not able to express them because, when I do, it has made the men who have loved me feel intimidated, inadequate, and insecure. And so, I have spent all of my life making myself small so that others can feel confident. I have a savior-martyr complex. I've always believed I am meant to be a sacrificial lamb, a ransom for the soul of whichever beautiful, broken, self-absorbed idiot is currently hunting me down and draining me of my life force. I am at once jaded and naive, a hopelessly romantic open wound of a human with a blisteringly sardonic sense of expression that I keep mostly repressed, except for the rare red carpet moments or interviews when these observations kamikaze themselves from my mouth because I can't bear the weight of the artifice anymore. But then one day it happened. One of said idiots finally broke me, and from me poured these poems featuring previously unspoken feelings of isolation, torment, self-harm, depression, longing, restlessness, rage, and general anguish. These poems were written in an attempt to excise the illness that had taken root in me because of my silence. I've spent my entire life keeping the secrets of men. My body aches from carrying the weight of their sins. My freedom lives in these pages, and I hope that my words can inspire others to take back their happiness and their identity by using their voice to illuminate what's been buried but not forgotten in the darkness. These are the experiences of many of us that I now give voice to in these poems. This book is for anyone who has given much more than they received, or for anyone who struggles to believe they deserve to be heard. And this book is also for me, because I deserve better. Megan's book, Pretty Boys Are Poisonous, is a very detailed account of her experiences with men, as it depicts the unhealthy cycles Megan has encountered in most of her romantic relationships. One Reddit user who received an advanced hard copy of the book highlighted some of the experiences Megan wrote about in her book. They write, in one poem, Megan describes herself as a sacrifice for her partner's fame. In another poem, she describes covering herself up to hide the bruises her partner left so that they wouldn't feel guilty. She says that she is scared to laugh at someone else's jokes. She asserts that she will wear skimpy clothing so that her partner can show her off. Megan compares herself to a ventriloquist puppet In another poem, Megan describes her partner's emotions as unhinged. She describes how she slowly distanced herself from her loved ones because her partner didn't like them. Megan also mourns the loss of a pregnancy, and in another poem admits that she is addicted to psychological abuse.
I prefer the agonizing psychological abuse of this trauma bond to the prosaic tedium of a regular life. Why do you think you gravitate towards toxicity over stability?
Because stability sounds boring.
Megan.
It does. And that's the truth. It sounds like it's not romantic. It doesn't sound like it's passionate.
Mm-hmm.
The literal definition of passion is to suffer. And it just sounds, I would rather be in something. This is not to encourage others to do this, but my personal psychosis and issue is that I would prefer to be in something dramatic and toxic versus something stable. Keep in mind, I've never experienced like truly stable.
Yeah.
So if I were to honestly experience it, I would probably have a lot of peace and would accept it.
Yeah.
But I've never had it.
Mhm.
So to me, the idea of it sounds very
Boring.
boring.
One of the common themes I wrote down was like throughout the book, you talk about minimizing yourself in order to make a man or men feel comfortable and confident and important. When was the first time you remember doing that in a relationship? Like bringing yourself down?
So tricky because my relationships are public, so it's hard to say. But
Okay.
I would say very early on, like
Mhm.
when I first started going to award shows and things like that, feeling judged for like my naive excitement over like first experiencing some kind of success, or like being at like, oh my God, I'm at the MTV Awards, like, whoa, this is so cool. And not being met with what felt to be criticism or judgment, and then me shrinking and receiving the message that it was embarrassing to like these things or to be happy to be a part of these things, and that I needed to quell that and reject it maybe.
Have you ever had someone that like had a very strong opinion to be like, you're not allowed to wear that, or don't be like as outgoing in at events? Like how controlling have you experienced relationships become?
I haven't had somebody control clothing and things like that. But definitely, yeah, definitely just down to like maintaining too much eye contact with someone else, or having, being too curious during a conversation, or to the point where it's like, well, I just won't talk to anyone. I just won't look at anyone. I won't shake anyone's hand. Like I'll just sit. And that's one of the poems you're referring to is, I think it was The Art of Becoming an Accessory.
Yeah.
And feeling like an accessory where I'm there, but why am I there? And what am I doing? I don't have like, I don't have a presence here because I'm not allowed to be.
You say, there was a time where I had never heard a man call me stupid, pathetic, bitch, cunt, slut, idiot. And there was also a time when I had never felt a man's hands hit me, suffocate me, or throw me to the ground. But now, if one of those things hasn't happened by Wednesday, I consider it a miracle. When I read that to you, how does it make you feel?
I dissociate from the physical violence a lot. Even when I talk to my therapist, I have yet to be able to have like a strong emotional reaction to that because I compartmentalized that, and that sort of just jumped over my logical brain and went right into my body. But I'm not able to feel emotional when I write about it or when I talk about it. It's basically like describing a movie. The gaslighting and the name calling and the mental emotional abuse, I do get very emotional about that. I am very like present with that.
Do you remember the first time that a man hit you?
Yes.
I don't know that I can tell the story. I have to be so careful.
No, of course, of course. I guess I could just ask, like, once something happens more than once, there's a way that you can almost, I don't want to say like normalize it, but you do.
You acclimate to it, yeah.
When it happened the first time, do you remember your reaction and like how you handled it and moved?
Yeah, I fawned. That was my initial reaction of freeze, fight, flight, fawn. Fawning is like, it's a combination of freezing and then also attempting to soothe the other person. So that was my initial reaction. And it was definitely shocking. But like I said, I almost immediately compartmentalized it and went into went into nurturing the other person to like calm the situation. And I don't know, I just took it on as my own burden right away instead of feeling the trauma.
The poem you wrote called Rape. Did anyone in your life know that you had survived that type of sexual abuse before you wrote this poem?
Yeah. Not my parents or like my family, but people that I've been with like have known. Yeah.
Did your family reach out to you once the book came out?
No.
Interesting. Did that shock you?
No.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I mean,
but that's telling of the relationship.
Yeah, that perfectly reflects as I would anticipate it to. Yeah. But how do I feel about it? I don't know. Well, part of me feels like exposed because I wrote this book with things like that in it. And so to hear someone else read it, I'm like, okay, I wrote that for everyone to read for all of eternity. They can revisit that book. And I did it, but I did it for a reason.
Yeah. Why did you do it?
One, for myself, I think, because obviously it was therapeutic to get it out and to get it out in a way that's different than to just talk to a therapist and like the words float away into nothingness. To put it into a book, I know that it'll find, even if it's only one person, it'll find someone that needs to read it and they will experience some kind of healing or some kind of inspiration from it. And therefore that gave my pain a purpose versus me just trying to heal privately. It also just felt like a demon that I needed to have exorcised from my body. Like I needed to get it out in this way. It also was written just from the like one angle of my perspective, meaning this was me being like, I'm writing this from my anger of all these men, all these experiences that I have had. It's not an objective view of my roles in the relationship. Like I said, like I failed many times inside the different relationships and was not a flawless.
Yeah.
I was not a pure victim. Like I did plenty of things and provoked plenty of things, not in terms of violence, but like I provoked pain or issues inside the relationship as well with my behavior. But the book was not written in a holistic way. It was written from my anger and my pain needed to speak. And that's what the book is.
Yeah.
Upon the release of Megan's book, the public had quite a reaction, with most expressing concern regarding the nature of her relationships, particularly her relationship with Machine Gun Kelly, who she called a narcissist in her book. But despite Megan's depiction of a very tumultuous relationship with the rapper, Megan would make a surprise cameo in his music video Lonely Road in July of 2024. Following her appearance in the music video, Megan would shock the internet when she announced on Instagram that she and the rapper were expecting a baby together. But 1 month after making this announcement, reports that the couple had split yet again began making headlines. According to news media outlets, Megan and Machine Gun Kelly called it quits during their Thanksgiving trip to Colorado after she found some upsetting material on his cell phone. TMZ writes that the stuff she saw was, quote, relationship ending. According to the outlet, Megan wants nothing to do with the rapper and has completely shut him out of her life. Machine Gun Kelly recently took to social media and shared a cryptic message, seemingly addressing the rumors that he and Megan have split. He wrote, "How can sources say when the sources haven't said anything?" It's unclear where Machine Gun Kelly and Megan Fox stand, but what is clear is that Megan has a self-admitted complicated relationship with men. In closing out her book, Megan hopes that her poems and life story can not only help heal others, but help heal herself as well.
Endless night, in a room without a window, trapped by love. What can we say? Always hurts, but we still long for love. We are the lovesick girls. You're not allowed to end our love like it's all your own. We are the lovesick girls. Don't recognize myself without all this pain, oh no. But we were born to be alone. Yeah, we were born to be alone. Yeah, we were born to be alone. But why we still looking for love?